Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here from YoVideogames, and I'm back with another E3 2018 video. Now, before I get to the hands-on stuff, which is coming, but you can actually get a real good hands-on look at it early. I should say ears-on, because we have a big, giant YoVideogames podcast covering a lot of what we saw and played at E3, which should be going up for patrons very shortly, and then will be free for everyone else by midweek next week. I wanted to talk about something that's a little different, something that's a little unique, and something that I think kind of needs to be discussed, and that is my top 5 changes that need to be made at E3. Now, when I'm talking about this is not a personal wish list. This is not going to be stuff that I think is not likely to happen, although I don't think this is likely to happen at what I do put. I'm just saying this list, as I'm going into it, is going to be kind of a realistic look at things I think they could really do that could be easily implemented and changed to make a better experience for everyone. And this actually does do it more from a, consumer public standpoint, although definitely one of those main points is not about them. But yes, I want, to do a list that kind of shows you, for those of you who went to E3, or maybe those who are looking into going to E3, kind of showing where they're kind of falling behind or could be better. So here we go, my top 5 changes to E3 for 2019 and all the years beyond. Number 5, use game mode on TVs. Now, to explain this a little bit, almost every single booth and meeting room at the show floor used the exact same size model Samsung TV. And almost all of them were using just the default out-of-the-box, whatever theater or TV mode that comes built in. And I've been to E3. I've known people who've actually set up the booths at E3. They actually just cart in giant, carts full of Samsung TVs. They put them up and they literally just install them, mount them on the walls or the displays, and then that's it. Like they just turn it on and make sure the HDMI plug works. So the problem with this is that, as anyone who's into modern TV knows, this creates delay issues, and especially for fighting games. And there were a pretty good number of fighting games, so it was even more noticeable this year. So yeah, it would really be great if whoever's manning the booths to really make sure that when that TV is set up, if you're all going to have the same standard television, make sure you go through and turn it on to game mode. Just make it so that you're getting the lowest input delay or lowest latency possible, because it actually brings down the experience of your games. It did bring down every single game I played was hampered a little bit by the fact that there was that sort of theater mode display lag between the button presses and the on-screen action. So this is something that really does need to be addressed and fixed, and it's more something on the exhibitor side of things to do to make sure that when you get those TVs up and running, especially for people you're trying to impress with that, fix the fucking TV so it's not on theater mode. Put it on game mode, please. It's going to be better overall for the perception and reception of your games. Moving on from that, let's talk about number 4. This is a big one. Don't build a big booth if your games aren't playable. I can't stress this enough. These booths are big sometimes. They're expensive. Some people have little meeting rooms only. Some people have decided only to rent out a space in some other area that's already a meeting room at the convention center. But there are plenty of times at E3 where there is a giant-ass booth built and there's really not much playable there. A big offender this year was actually Sony, where they had a huge amount of space for people to just lay down or sit in and just watch a big-ass theater with a little stage to the side doing sort of like interviews and play-by-play commentary. And their whole booth was just mostly empty except for a big wall of Spider-Man and then a couple, 2 little roundabouts for Destiny 2 expansion and Call of Duty Black Ops 4. And then on the flip side of the Spider-Man wall, facing a completely different direction, was a appointment-only VR section. So what that meant was that Sony had a enormous booth with really 3 games playable and plus a whole bunch of appointment-only VR stuff, facing another way. That, I feel, is kind of a waste of time because some of these booths cost into the millions of dollars. And really, if all you're doing is just showing footage or regurgitating the trailers which are already online, as an exhibitor, you've wasted your money by paying for something that a small number of people are going to see as opposed to the millions potentially that could watch it on YouTube. And B, you're really doing a disservice to the people who paid lots of money to get in and waited in line to get into these places, and they're not doing or getting anything for it. So to me, that's a huge oversight. That this year was actually pretty good, but last year and the years before, it's definitely been a problem. It's a huge problem for Bethesda, or as I affectionately like to call them, Bugthesda, where they build giant-ass booths that are really more just sort of theme park attraction walkthroughs, and they don't offer really any actual gameplay. There were some actual games to play at Bugthesda this year, which was kind of nice, but there were just as many games that weren't playable, that were either just a statue, a giant walkthrough, or experience, or half-assed escape room, or puzzle test thing for like Fallout 76, and it's just a waste of fucking time. People would be better served really just going up and getting a stupid free Nuka-Cola rather than having to go through some awkward, cringy, acted out dialogue, experience for the Fallout, and wasting these actors' time and talent for something that is really not going to be remembered or even valuable to the people who are buying the game. So do not build a big booth if your games aren't playable. This is specifically for Sony this year. This is specifically for Bugthesda every year, and it's very especially true for Take-Two Interactive, who always have a big fortress that they build that's completely closed off, windowless, and it's strictly for whatever special press and mostly for a lot of sales and marketing people who go into their big giant fortress of Take-Two. Waste of fucking time and space that could be better utilized for other companies who are actually bringing stuff to the show floor. So please don't build a big booth if your games aren't playable. Following up on that, number 3, bring lots of demos. I cannot stress this part enough, because as public is being invited to the show and it's getting more and more crowded, there's a huge fucking issue here with people who know they have a big game on their hands and know it's a hit, and even if it's their most profitable or expected to be profitable title of the year, they bring fucking 10 or less demo units for the game for the whole entire general public to play. Why? Especially if your demo is long. Now, I could get into the fact that, you should shorten demos, or you should do this or that, but bringing lots of demos solves a lot of issues. You could always just release the fucking demo online. You could always offer demo discs for people online. Like, say you have a booth where you go and you get a piece of swag or whatever, but then they give you a demo disc with it so you don't have to actually play the game at the show. And now there's this weird paranoia and fear about people will data mine demos and they'll find out stuff about the game they're not supposed to, and guess what? It's going to fucking happen anyway. So I feel that's a dumb paranoia that really game companies really shouldn't worry about, but they will. But the real big solution to all of this, because I know there's a million ways to argue about not just releasing a fucking demo, is bring lots of playable builds to your booth. Do not regulate it to 10 or less. That is the dumbest fucking idea. A big offender of this one this year was Nintendo, because 4 years ago they had a Smash Brothers 4 where almost the entire booth was dedicated to that. And let's just do a little bit of simple math here. Let's say you have 100 demo units for Smash Brothers, and it's 4 players on each, and it's time battle only at 2 minutes. So you're putting in 400 people for every 2 minutes of gameplay, and then after a couple hours, that is thousands of people who could have potentially played Smash Brothers instead of this appointment-only system and then splitting it between competitive and for glory and all this other dumb shit. As someone who's been to E3 since 2001, as someone who's been to fan conventions such as AX since 2001, as someone who's worked and helped to build smaller conventions and even been in security detail, I can tell you that this was a piss-poor way of handling things from Nintendo's point of view as far as Smash Bros. Goes. All they really ended up doing was creating a giant clogged mess on the side of their booth between them and Sega, with a whole bunch of people just herded like cattle waiting to try to get in. They tried to basically smooth it out by putting the standby line in the way back area where there's just some random tables and restrooms, but at the end of the day, this was a problem that didn't need to exist, because you could have just brought a whole lot of demos for people to play. I do not understand the idea where if you're going to bring a big hot game to the show, but you're going to massively limit the number of people who can actually play it, because you have a single player game that's demo was 30 minutes long, which is way too fucking long, or you don't let enough people do it because you've limited and appointment sized and done all this other dumb shit like Nintendo did for Smash Brothers. Just bring a fucking lot of demo units there. It's not hard to do this, especially at this point in time when you're not a new console, when it's not a year when a brand new console is there and its console's been out for a little while. You know there's tons of consoles out in the wild that could handle this stuff. And it doesn't really take any time or effort to just mass copy a demo build onto a whole bunch of demo units. This is not a problem. In fact, you should, again, go back to making the demo publicly available. You should just put it on store-bought systems and just release it to the public like that. But if you're not going to do that, bring lots of demo units. Don't be stupid about this. This is ridiculous that in this day and age that we still go to E3 and there's still big giant booths that have 10 fucking units for public to play on Assassin's Creed or any of the big, other third-party games, Namco, Capcom, Sega, what have you. Like, unfucking believable that they would still do this in this day and age, especially as they keep letting more public in and more people are trafficking into E3. Unfucking believable how incredibly, ignorantly stupid so many companies and E3 itself is being about this. Bring lots of demos. Number 2 is kind of an interesting one for me, and it's called Make a Swag Redemption Area. This is something San Diego Comic-Con has done before, where basically they set aside a meeting hall or a ballroom off-site, usually in an adjoining hotel or something, and what they do is they say, hey, you go to all the companies who are exhibitors there and say, look, if you have stuff that you're going to give away, don't give it away in the booth. Here's a ticket. And then if someone gets a hold of the ticket, they can take that ticket to the swag redemption room, and then they get the item that they would normally hand out in the other ways. No muss, no fuss. This is a great idea because it reduces clog, it reduces stampedes, and it prevents issues that happened to us on the last day where some giant tall motherfucker was jumping up and down because on the last day, Ubisoft decided they were just going to throw out swag into a giant mass of people, which caused some tall, dumb motherfucker to land and elbow Max's wife straight in the gut and basically walk away. So to prevent issues like this, one, don't fucking throw out swag into a giant crowd like a mosh pit, which was incredibly short-sighted and stupid on Ubisoft's part. But secondly, don't do it anyways. If you had all of the swag and all of the redemption stuff off-site in a ballroom at another place, whether in LA Live or the JW Marriott, a hotel or something like that, it would actually alleviate people from clogging up areas or making giant lines in the convention center, especially for dumb shit like Bethesda's booth, where it's really just an experience and handing out a bunch of useless swag. So I really can't stress this enough. Like, this would go a long way towards making everything in the gaming hall focused on people going to places to play the games and not looking for a bunch of free handout horseshit. Organize it, set it up ahead of time, make it a universal ticketing system with all of the exhibitors there, because this is how you should be handling this if you're running the whole show of E3, and put a big giant ballroom somewhere else, not in the LA Convention Center, somewhere else to just go and pick up all the freebie shit there. Do it there. It's a wonderful solution to a problem that's only going to get bigger that the more the public gets into this show, and a lot of them are just there just to pick up freebie dumb shit so they can sell it on eBay. That is very much a real thing. It is a whole secondhand market. So to avoid these kind of problems where people are literally getting injured that I have witnessed by my own site, you could have a ticket redemption area and move it all off there. Keep E3's show floor about the games, playing the games, not about getting your dumb fucking free hat. No offense to the free hat people, I do like free hats. All right, so my big number 1 for E3 is make a media-only hall or media-only days. Now, this is a little bit like personal because it's obviously not going to have any sort of reflection on the public, but hear me out on this. If E3 was smart, they would copy either what Gamescom does or what Tokyo Game Show does, even though, yes, I know E3 is still technically bigger, so why would they have to copy a lesser convention? But hear me out. when we had media early hours, which was their sort of olive branch or token gesture this year on the first 2 days, it was amazing to be able to freely walk from hall to hall, booth to booth, exhibitor to exhibitor, and able to cover and play the games so that I can come back and easily tell you about what I did, what I saw, what I played. It made coverage way easier for me, and I feel that if a whole section of E3 was turned into a media-only hall where you don't have any big booths, you just have a bunch of stands in rows and rows of all the publishers there. No fancy frill, no fancy, booths or swag or anything like that. Just TVs upon TVs set up with the game demos for you to just freely walk in there, play it, and get out and move on with your day. This would go a lot better. Now, I understand that if you have appointments, you already have special media and special sales and marketing, already have special places in the booths. But if this was done like Gamescom, where there's a whole hallway or area separated just for media who maybe don't have appointments, because I'll be 100% honest with you, it is very, very, very hard as a media person to get contacts with the media outlet if you don't have them already. It is a very much turning into this Hollywood system of who you know, not how big you are or whatever. I mean, unless you're like the New York Times, but this is something that would move all of the media completely off the exhibit floor. So that opens up all of those people. Because if media had just a hallway where they could go at any time and just play any of the games, on their own, that would free up even more space on the exhibit hall for the public to play. So that's good for the public as it gets people off the floor away from them. The other thing they could do is the Tokyo Game Show route, where they could do a media-only day or 2 days of media-only, 2 days of public-only, where media couldn't go on the public days. They could only go on the media days, which would also, I feel, be a totally fine solution. In fact, if there was a media-only day that even stripped it away from, some of the more other things like VIPs or industry, like it was strictly media-only, we would be able to cover almost every single game at that show floor, period, no questions asked. And it would be amazing because that would make coverage very, very easy to get to people. And we could get it up faster, and people could just go to the show floor the next day knowing that, hey, media got their turn, they can't come back. And they would have, again, just less people on the show floor, less people crowding it, less people waiting in line, which means that the public would theoretically be able to get to their own games and their own stuff they want to see faster. So E3 really, really needs to think about this. They really need to put an area that's media only, that would highly encourage all the media people not to be around the public, or a media only day where only media is allowed in and the public is not. Which it's just better for everyone. There are logistical things behind it. Like some people may not be hip to the idea of possibly extending E3 for 4 days, even if it was done in the name of media only days, public only days. Some of the booth people may not want to do that. That's fine. But, you could also say there's just not enough space to do, say, a whole media hall, which I'm not 100% convinced of, first of all. And second of all, maybe it's time to just leave the fucking shitty LA Convention Center behind. I can't stress enough this. I've avoided talking about this, but yes, fuck LA, fuck its convention center, fuck downtown, fuck everything around it. So I would be happier than anything to just get the fuck out of LA, as long as it wasn't San Francisco, because fuck that even harder. It would be just wonderful just to get the fuck away from the LA Convention Center and put it somewhere nice and bigger and more spacious and more options to do things like Anaheim, like San Diego, even Las Vegas. That's just my personal thing. I would go to fucking Seattle for this if I could, but I'm not sure that Seattle's convention center is actually bigger than LA, so... all that being said, those are my top 5 fixes for E3. And just to sort of nutshell it again, number 5, use game modes on TV. Number 4, don't build a big booth if your games aren't playable. Number 3, bring lots of demos, especially for high in demand titles. Should be obvious. Number 2, make a swag redemption area off-site and don't hand shit out in the booth. Number 1, make a media only hall or a media only day. These are 5 simple fixes that could make E3 better for everyone, media, industry, public. everyone would win out in these situations. And to take it from someone who's been going since 2001, E3 could really use with some of these simple fixes. And I think anyone who went there, whether they be media industry or public, and was there this year, probably I would like to hear your feedback on these things. Let me know if you guys think it's something that's worth looking into, and let me know in the comments below. And you know what? I hope E3 continues to be good. I hope they do take some of these things to heart. Probably won't, but a man can dream. And let me know what you guys think overall, and I will see you on the channel later, dudes.